Hello everyone! Bet you weren't expecting to see me on this video. Don't know why I ducked down there as well. Just going to make sure that I'm properly focused. There we go. I'm at Celtic Park. Hopefully you have worked that out. If you haven't, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're not a Celtic fan. Get off my channel. Or our channel. Get in trouble for saying that. Anyway, I'm here today because, well, long story short, I needed to record a video slightly in advance, and we're going to be taking a little bit of a different look today, a bit of a more general look at the experience of coming to a game at Celtic Park, and specifically what can be improved. I was hoping to maybe do some good and some bad, but it's just generally going to be stuff that Celtic can improve. Going to be interactive with a lot of your thoughts. Couple of reasons for this video, the main one being that Celtic are back here tomorrow. We're playing against Blackburn Rovers, our first home game of the season, albeit that it is a pre-season friendly. The other reason was an interesting thing I saw earlier in the week. You've probably come across it too, a story concerning Aberdeen Football Club and their announcement of a transport partnership with First Bus to provide fans with free travel for home match days this season. So that kind of overall match day experience, coupled with Celtic returning to Celtic Park tomorrow, coupled with me needing a video idea, means that we are doing this today. And I've decided to come to, I think, the windiest place in the whole of Glasgow, because I thought it wasn't going to be quite as windy as it normally is, but it is still rather windy. I don't know what it is about this specific bit, but it just seems to be a wind trap, if there is such a thing. Anyway, I sent out a tweet yesterday and almost immediately regretted it. I've had in close to 200 replies since sending this out. I've picked out a few issues I think we could talk about in this issue. I think there's maybe 5 or 6. I got some amount of replies, and a lot of them were commenting on things that are kind of out with Celtic's control. Stuff like bringing back alcohol to football games, stuff like changing kick-off times to make them more favourable to supporters. This is stuff that is really out with Celtic's control at this stage, and I want to keep this video to realistic things that Celtic can improve, and we're going to try and let you know what the club have said on these issues in recent times, just so you're up to speed with where we stand. So it's going to be a pretty hectic video. There's going to be a lot happening in this one, so let's get into it. I should say, by the way, a huge thanks to the legend that is Ginty1888 of The Cynic for his help with this. Now, basically, he attends these events Celtic put on, meetings, basically fan forum meetings. I think he puts questions from supporters to the club, and he reports on what has been said by the club, and you get a fair bit of bluster in these things, but you also get certain wee nuggets, and there's plenty of nuggets in this video. So a big thanks to Ginty1888. I will link that thread below, the most recent one, which I think was in February, and also check him out on Twitter as well. He's at Ginty1888. Now, the prominent issue that people were most interested in, I would say maybe a third of the total replies we got in were centred around ticketing and the need for Celtic to put in place some sort of system that allows season ticket holders who can't make it to games to resell their tickets to other supporters, therefore making a little bit of money back, but I think most importantly allowing other supporters to get to games and really trying to get as few seats empty as possible at games. Now, I just want to say straight away that Celtic's attendances are incredible. For a team who plays in Scotland, we are pretty much always in the top 15 most supported clubs in Europe in terms of how many fans we get through the gates every single season. However, I do think there were plenty of empty seats at plenty of Celtic games last season, and it would be great if we could look to remedy that going forward. Just a few tweets that we got in on this, starting with Rossiday, who tweeted me saying, "An avenue for season ticket holders who can't make games and want to give their seat to someone willing to take it up. Done without issue on the continent, get the stadium full at all times. Meanwhile, Fringed and Unhinged," great name, said, "We absolutely need to find a way to sell on season tickets for unused matches. A club like Celtic should have this option. So many people not attending games for whatever reason and many others missing out." And finally, Angebot, equally great name, saying, "Definitely a safe, secure, club-endorsed app that lets fans, potentially restricted to those on the season ticket waiting list as a pilot, a simple marketplace that allows a season ticket to be used by someone else on any days the holder can't make it. Hate seeing empty seats." I know these kind of resale options are things that plenty of clubs around Europe do. In England, they're a big thing. I always remember Arsenal as being the kind of shining example in this. When I was down at the Emirates Cup, about 12 years ago, believe it or not, to watch Celtic in that, I remember they were doing a lot of advertising about their kind of resale scheme. And the Emirates, I think, is pretty famous. It may have kind of lost it a little bit, but certainly in its early days as a stadium, it was pretty famous for always being full, pretty much, very few empty seats. Now, I get that's in London, a much bigger city than Glasgow. I know it's the English Premier League, etc. But that's something Celtic can certainly look at. So I thought I would look into what Arsenal do now. They've got what they call the Arsenal Ticket Exchange service. Now, it's worth saying you do have to be an Arsenal member for this, but that's something Celtic could certainly do. The explainer on the website reads, "Season ticket holders unable to attend a game can make their ticket available once the match is sold out via the Ticket Exchange service. Upon a buyer being found and a sale being made, your membership card will be disabled for the game while the buyer's membership card will be activated. The credit for the ticket sale, less a 10% administrative charge, will be deducted from the cost of your season ticket renewal, or the funds can be withdrawn throughout the season using the cashback service during the allotted time slots advertised below." Now, the phrase win-win is often used. I feel like this is a win-win-win-win because there are no downsides I can see to Celtic being able or being willing to bring this in. Perhaps, you know, the implementation cost would be the only thing, but that would be, you know, well worth it in the long run. It would allow season ticket holders a chance to make money back if they can't make a game, which I think is important. It's quite good the way Arsenal do it, that you get it off your next season ticket. I feel like that's almost better than getting money back. It feels as if you're really getting a reward. So for example, if you missed 3 home games, sold your ticket on, you would maybe get 80, 90, £100 off your season ticket the following season. That kind of feels like you're getting something back. It allows more fans to see games. The amount of games last season that Celtic said were sold out, and then you turned up and there were in fact, you know, thousands of empty seats, and the club wouldn't lose out on any money. If anything, they would maybe gain money from new supporters coming through the gates and getting the bug, etc. So as I say, it's win-win-win-win. What is Celtic's stance on this? Well, from the February fan forum, their comment was that the best model for them at the moment is to sell matchday tickets. Now, whatever that means, I think it is reasonable to say that a club of Celtic's stature, I mean, look behind me at that stadium, you know, a major club. I think it's reasonable to say that Celtic could implement this. If a club like Arsenal can do it, we can certainly do it. We have the means to do that. And it wouldn't necessarily mean that every single home game would suddenly sell out. I'll be honest, you know, Ross County on you know, even a Saturday afternoon maybe isn't the most appetising or appealing fixture, but I think it would see Celtic Park fuller for these games. The big matches are always going to sell out. Season tickets holders turn up for them, but you do often get these lesser games when the crowds aren't quite as big. So I don't see any real downsides to this at all. I think Celtic would need to look at a new ticketing system. I think the line from the club, I don't know this for sure, is that the current ticketing system doesn't allow this, but that's something they could do. So as much as there's going to be plenty of things in this list that Celtic maybe have their hands tied with, I think this is something that we should really look at, and hopefully we do. So that was the big one. Moving on, the next one is surrounding the actual matchday experience at Celtic Park, or actually outside Celtic Park, and the desire for a fan zone. Again, this is something that we see in other countries. I think Germany, they do it particularly well. I remember going to a game at Borussia Mönchengladbach on a Friday night about 5 years ago. And yes, people had probably just finished work, but they were all there a couple of hours before kick-off, drinking beer, having a good time, putting money into the club, etc. Loads of fun activities. And it'd be great to see Celtic being able to do this. Ewan, formerly of this parish, says it would be good to have more stuff happening outside the ground before kick-off. Teresa McCallion saying fan zone is definitely to include toilets. Great to arrive early and soak up atmosphere and buzz outside ground, but no toilets then an issue. Sean, Eve, Alan and others also mentioning fan zones in their tweets to me. That one from Teresa is interesting because you do come here quite a lot, certainly at the end of last season, an hour and a half before kick-off, and it's packed behind me. There's everyone there. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people. But there are no toilets as far as I know. I mean, I think that's an issue at Celtic Park, especially if you're having a few beers before kick-off. There isn't really any toilets until you go into the stadium, and I think a fan zone with better facilities would certainly be a positive move for the club. In fairness to the club, I do have a lot of sympathy for them here because I think they realise that a fan zone would be a good move as well, and it seems like their hands are tied here. Celtic were keen on a fan zone back in late 2018, you may remember this, and actually applied for a trial outside the Jock Stein stand as per a fan forum at that time, but the plans were rejected by Glasgow City Council. The club also wanted a large rotating screen just behind me somewhere. Maybe with 67 Hail Hail on it, I don't know. But again, that was rejected by Glasgow City Council because it could prove to be distracting to drivers going down London Road. That's kind of what Celtic are dealing with here a lot of the time, so I do have a bit of sympathy for them. Hopefully, given the way the Euros fan zone worked out and the fact that it proved it was doable, albeit kind of away from matches. They had it at Glasgow Green during the Euros last summer. It does show that something could work, and maybe we could see something at Celtic Park. We do have it to an extent, as I say, before games outside the main stand, but having a proper facility where people can have a wee drink, you can have proper music on. I know they've got the Kerrydale bar, but I'm talking about a proper thing outside. I think would be a great move, but the club are keen to do it. It just seems like their hands are tied with that. In terms of facilities, speaking about that, many complaints about the main stand. Ryan Duke saying renovate and get rid of each pole or pillar that restricts viewing. Shambles, that's still a thing these days. David saying facilities in the main stand are comically bad and the design of structure makes it difficult to improve. Alan McLaren saying facilities in the south stand are atrocious and drastically need updating. Big issue for female supporters is a real lack of bathroom facilities there as well. And finally, Bob saying bring us into the modern era and provide better facilities within the main stand. Queues for toilets and food side by side and not enough space. I've actually not been in the main stand, apart from hospitality, in a good few years. So I'm kind of taking people's word for it on this one, but it does seem like there's an issue with several parts of the main stand. It was built in 1929 after all. What's that, 93 years ago it was built, so it maybe isn't a surprise that the facilities aren't great, but I think Celtic could really do with upgrading it. When they were asked about the possibility of an upgrade at a fan forum last October, the club's line was that there were no plans and that capital and investment was focused on football, with the pandemic being one of the biggest challenges Celtic have ever faced. A classic tactic that I think we've all used over the last couple of years. Blame the COVID pandemic for something not being as it should be. Right, moving on, standing section. This was another big one with people keen to see the standing section grow. CS17 saying more spaces in the atmospheric areas of the stadium because the atmosphere, unless it's a European game or derby match, is lifeless. Notorious 67 saying increase the size of the standing section, lower only though. Loads of other people suggesting this too, like our very own Stevie, who wanted ultras sections behind both goals rather than in the corner. Now at the moment I believe that the current North Curve standing section holds around 3,000 people when it's full. As I understand, this won't be growing anytime soon. However, there has been chat about a new standing section for the boys ultras group in the opposite corner of the stadium. I believe plans have been made for this, with some supporters in that area even contacted, but it won't be happening this season. Details are pretty sketchy on that, but I think a second ultras section in the stadium at the other end of the stadium would be a really good move in terms of the atmosphere, really making Celtic Park a kind of all-round good atmosphere, because at times the noise can all be coming from one area. I know the boys make a lot of noise, but having a proper, you know, committed standing section, you know, with them at the helm, I think would be really good. So it seems like more standing spaces is something the club is looking at, but it is, as always, a case of just watching this space. Two of the final issues I wanted to touch on: food and Wi-Fi. The green and white saying, for me, catering is a huge disappointment. A club our size with our income should be able to provide better options for the fans. Greg Jones saying, food choice is terrible. It's like they are surprised people are in the stadium and want to eat. Michael saying, the grub needs improved. It would be a win-win. We'd pay more for decent food. I mean, come on. Again, the catering is something the club are well aware of. They actually established a subgroup recently. I know that our rivals across the city signed a deal with Levy UK and I this summer to provide better food and drink at Ibrox. So this is something Celtic could look at. I'm assuming it's a kind of third party that does it at the moment. So a lot of it may be out of the club's control in terms of people asking for specific things. I wouldn't say this is a Celtic issue either. I would say generally in Scottish and perhaps even British football, food does lag behind the continent. Again, Germany seems to be the kind of flag bearer for brilliant scran. You go to Germany, you get a fresh wurst and a lovely crusty roll, you get curry wurst, you get loads of other things, chips with beautiful mayo, whereas here you get like barely warm pies and bovril. The Wi-Fi was another major one. I've actually got the solution, everyone. It's called 5G. And if you get 5G, I guarantee you'll be able to get signal throughout the 90 minutes at Celtic Park. I get it at half-time, I get it at full-time, all because of 5G. Wait, if I say everyone gets 5G, then everyone will get 5G and clog up the system and I won't get signal anymore. 5G is terrible. Don't bother with 5G at all. There's no difference. 4G is where you're at. Stick with 4G, everyone. And yeah, that'll solve your issue. Some of the more trivial ones that I found funny. Peter Joyce, stop the taps in the toilets soaking you and everyone in an 8-mile radius when you use them. That is just so true. Anyone who has ever been to the Celtic Park bogs will know that the taps are either not working at all or they're coming out like a tsunami. So yeah, that's very true. Carty saying less vloggers. I'm not a vlogger, so I'm up for that. And Dylan saying, and I laughed at this one, golf carts to and from Dalmarnock Station. The best idea of the entire video for me, because that walk is deceivingly long. Thanks for your tweets. I got so many of them in. Hopefully I've been able to get a fair few of them on this video. There was loads I couldn't mention because I didn't want to slag the club off for something when I didn't know the full story. Quite often with these things, if the common sense approach hasn't been taken, there is a reason for it. And when I'm not privy to all this information, I don't want to just go out and slag the club off. So hopefully I've been as balanced as possible. Thanks again to Ginty1888 for his work on the fan forum and tweeting about it. Give him a follow. I think as part of this, we'll reach out to the club, or certainly John Paul Taylor, the supporters liaison officer, with some questions on this, see if he can provide any clarity on any of these topics, and we'll relay that information to you in a future video if he does indeed do that. Anyway, we are back here tomorrow for the game against Blackburn Rovers. I'll have Stevie by my side. Well, not strictly true, he'll be down there and to my side a little bit. I really need to stop slagging him off. We're going to turn over a new leaf for the season. Me and Stevie are going to be best buddies. Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Speak to you tomorrow.